Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke meets President Buhari at Presidential Villa. Ukraine's military denies report of Russian seizure of Solidar. And Japanese prosecutors indict man suspected of killing former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. My name is Tunde Ido. We're kicking things off from Osun State. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke today met with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Their first since he was sworn in November last year. After the meeting in the president's office, he told State House correspondent that he was at the seat of power to greet the president and thank him for signing the Electoral Act, which enabled him to be elected as governor. While noting that President Buhari was looking healthy and nice, Governor Adeleke, who was elected under the People's Democratic Party (PDP), said the president's action paved the way for a free and fair elections in the state. The governor said the visit to the villa will also provide him the opportunity to discuss other issues of federal assistance with the Chief of Staff to the President, Ibrahim Gambari. Amongst the requests, Governor Adeleke made aware support for infrastructural development, a proposed new economic city and free trade zone, tax credit, and other federal facilities in Osun State. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) Osun State has held a security meeting with candidates of different political parties and stakeholders on how to find a lasting solution to alleged political attacks in the state. This comes after an office of the Presidential Campaign Committee of the All Progressive Congress was vandalized in Elisha. While addressing those guarded, the resident electoral commissioner in the state, Dr. Mutiu Agboke, called on all parties to respect the law and play their games peacefully. On his part, the Commissioner of Police of Osun State, Patrick Kehinde Lunge, assured residents of the state that the police is on top of their game. He warned political heavyweights, asking them to retrace their steps by allowing peace to reign.
Stakeholders here to solve any form of violence that can sustain the capacity of denting the image of our dear state in the coming election. Remember, election is not a civil war. Don't let us turn Osun State into a battleground. There is a thing. It has been brought to the attention of the Commission that some unscrupulous people are destroying other political parties' billboards, posters, which of course is not fair to the conduct of the peaceful election in Osun State. This has created palpable fears in the polity in the last 2 weeks. I want to enjoy all the political parties here present and the candidates to develop the culture of political tolerance and display of political maturity by allowing healthy competition among themselves in order to portray the real Omoluabi in us.
I've had cause to call certain groups, I won't mention their names here, to appeal to them. At this moment, we're appealing. When it gets beyond appealing, the law will take its course. And we presume we don't want it to get to that level. And importantly,
and news outside Nigeria, Benin's pro-government parties have won a majority of seats in parliament in a vote marking the return of the opposition after 4 years of absence. The country's constitutional court made this known, stating that parties supporting President Patrice Talon, the Republican Bloc and the Progressive Union for Renewal together won 81 out of the 109 parliament seats. The president of the Constitutional Court, Razaki Amodu Isifo, said the opposition-less Democrats gained 28 seats, adding that voter turnout was 37.79%. Sunday's vote, which went ahead peacefully, was a test for the West African state where President Talon has focused on development, but critics says democracy has steadily eroded under his watch. It was the first time the opposition was participating in elections since cotton magnate Talon came into power in 2016. Hundreds of people in the Somali capital, Mogadishu, attended a government-organized rally yesterday to protest against the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, who was part of the rally at the stadium under tight security, used the event to call on Somalis to help flush out members of the Al-Shabaab group. Mr. Mohamud, addressing the large crowd, which was one of the largest public gatherings in recent years, said the Kharijites are living amongst the people. Mr. Mohamud further called on the people to commit to flushing renegades out of the country, stating that they are like bedbugs under one's clothes. 8 Ghanaian high school students who were expelled for insulting President Nana Akufo-Addo in a viral video have been allowed to resume classes. In a statement, the Education Ministry said President Akufo-Addo had intervened in reversing the expulsion of the Chainana senior high school students. A statement by the ministry's spokesperson said the Ghana Education Service was directed to consider an alternative disciplinary action instead of dismissal. The students had initially been suspended before being expelled on Thursday by the Education Service. One of the students later apologized in a video. The Central Intelligence Agency Chief, William Burns, has made a rare trip to Libya, meeting the country's interim premier weeks after Libya authorities handed the United States a suspect in the 1988 Lockerbie bombing. The meeting in Tripoli yesterday was the first visit by a CIA director to the North African country since the 2012 attack against a U.S. mission in Benghazi that killed the U.S. ambassador and 3 others. The visit and the meeting with Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Dabiba were announced by his Government of National Unity on its Facebook page. It said the CIA director underlined the need to develop economic and security cooperation between the two countries. Libyan media also report that Burns met with Khalifa Haftar, the Eastern Libya-based military strongman who has attempted to march on Tripoli and overthrow the Government of National Unity in the past. And to the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine military has denied that Russia has seized control of the town of Soledar, stating that Ukrainian units are still in the town. Spokesperson for the Ukraine's Eastern Military Command, Serhiy Cherryvatli, made this known, adding that Ukrainian units are still there and the fight for the town is still ongoing. Earlier, the Russia Defense Ministry had claims its forces have taken control of the town. In a statement, the ministry said yesterday evening the liberation of the city of Soledar was completed. Russia's capture of the town would allow its troops to cut off Ukrainian forces from the nearby, much larger town of Bakhmut. The Russian Foreign Ministry has said the joint military drills between Russia and its close ally Belarus are designed to deter potential opponents from escalations and provocations. Russia used Belarus as a springboard to invade Ukraine in February of 2022, and the October deployment of a joint troop group to Belarus raised fears in Kiev that Russia could be preparing to launch a new offensive from its northern neighbor this year. But in an interview with state media, a Russian Foreign Ministry official, Alexei Polishchuk, said the joint drills are designed to prevent escalation, but warned that Belarus may join the Ukraine conflict if it or Russia is invaded. It stated that from a legal point of view, the use of military force by the Kiev regime or the invasion of the territory of Belarus or Russia by the armed forces of Ukraine as sufficient grounds for a collective response. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban says the European Union sanctions on Russia are a mistake and should be ended. Mr. Orban, speaking to local media outlets, said if the sanctions on Russia are lifted, energy prices and inflation will fall in half. He said it is certain that America won the war and Europe lost, stating that there is a debate over whether Russia won or lost. He added that Hungary has no power to end the sanctions, but countries like France and Germany do. Mr. Orban, who has close ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin, has been a long-time critic of the Union's sanctions on Russia since the invasion last year. In the United Kingdom, police say a 28-year-old woman who was mauled to death at a beauty spot in Surrey was walking a number of dogs at the time. The incident occurred at Gravely Hill in Cottenham yesterday afternoon, and despite efforts of paramedics, the victim from London was declared dead at the scene. Specialist officers are supporting her next of kin. Inspector Lindsay Watley of Surrey Police said a second woman who received treatment for dog bite has since left hospital. A total of 8 dogs were detained and they remain in the custody of the police, but no arrests have been made. Roads in the area remain cordoned off today as forensic work continued, with only residents being allowed in and out.
The afternoon, at around 2:45 p.m, officers were called to Gravelly Hill in Caterham to reports of dogs attacking members of the public. Sadly, despite the best efforts of paramedics, a 28-year-old woman from London was sadly pronounced dead at the scene. The woman is believed to have been walking a number of dogs at the time of the incident. Her next of kin have been informed and will be supported by specialist officers. A second woman, who received treatment for dog bites, has since been discharged from hospital. A total of 8 dogs were detained by officers and they remain in the custody of police. The owners of these dogs have been identified and are being kept informed as the investigation continues. A police cordon will remain in place at Gravelly Hill.
Still in Britain, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said he hopes to find a way through the deadlock with unions to avert further industrial action. The Prime Minister also said the government is prioritizing strong dialogue with union leaders as they aim to resolve bitter disputes over pay, jobs and conditions. During his trip to Scotland, Mr. Sunak was asked about criticism that the government is too slow in negotiating with unions when labor disputes are having a detrimental effect on the economy.
With strikes, it's important that we remain in strong dialogue with the unions. That's why the government invited all union leaders in to have those discussions. Those discussions are ongoing and hopefully we can find a way through. But I also think that it's really important that we protect ordinary working people's access to life-saving health care, allow them to go about their lives free from that type of disruption, which is why we're introducing new laws, minimum safety levels, which will ensure that in areas like ambulances or fire, that when there are strikes, people can still rely on a basic level of emergency service. I think that's a right, responsible and reasonable thing to do in common with many other countries, and we're going to bring forward those.
You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
According to the words of Michael Forbes, one who never asks questions either knows everything and nothing. Watch me as I ask the questions you think no one wants to answer. Even questions it appears no one has got the guts to ask. My name is Femi Adifula and I've got the gut. Let's ask the pertinent questions and watch as we get answers.
Thank you for joining us. You're still watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Japanese prosecutors have indicted the man suspected of killing former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe following confirmation that he was competent to stand trial. According to local media outlets, the public prosecutor's office in Nara district indicted Tetsuya Yamagami on murder charges as well as violation of gun laws following the conclusion of a psychiatric assessment. The 42-year-old suspect had spent months undergoing a psychiatric evaluation, which ended earlier this week with his transfer to a police station in Nara City, where the former premier was fatally attacked in July 2022. Yamagami could face the death penalty if convicted. South Korean police are seeking charges of involuntary manslaughter and negligence against 23 officials over public safety failures. They said they were responsible for a crowd crush that killed 159 persons in the capital, Seoul. The head of the National Police Agency's special investigation into the tragedy, Sun Yi-han, disclosed this today, noting that the officials include law enforcement officers. He revealed that his team will send the case file to prosecutors following the conclusion of an investigation into the events of that night. Despite anticipating a crowd of more than 100,000 for Halloween festivities in October 2022, Seoul police had assigned fewer than 140 officers to the capital's busy nightlife district, Itaewon, on the day of the crush. Iran has welcomed the possibility of a rapprochement between its ally Syria and Turkey, the main backer of the political and armed opposition to Damascus for more than a decade. Iranian Foreign Minister Hosseini Amirabdollahian made this known during a visit to Beirut, stating that Iran is happy with the dialogue taking place between Syria and Turkey. Earlier, Syria's President Bashir al-Assad has said that a Moscow-brokered rapprochement with Turkey should aim for the end of Ankara's occupation of northwestern Syria, one of the few safe havens for oppositions. He also said that Turkey had to halt its support for terrorism, an apparent reference to support for the rebels. Al-Assad made the remarks on Thursday in a meeting in Damascus with the Russian presidential envoy for Syria, Alexander Levertiev. In the United States, congressional Republicans are demanding to see visitor logs for United States President Joe Biden's homes, arguing that the discovery of classified files at one of his residences is a national security risk. Mr. Biden acknowledged that sensitive materials was found in the garage of his house in Delaware. The Justice Department has appointed an investigator to look into the files. News that sensitive documents dating from Mr. Biden's time as vice president had been found in a private office at the Penn Biden Center, a think tank in Washington, emerged earlier this week. That was followed by a disclosure that a second cache was discovered at Mr. Biden's home. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland revealed in a news conference that the second cache had been found on the 20th of December at Mr. Biden's private home in Wilmington, Delaware. Speaking to reporters, Mr. Biden again said his lawyers had notified officials of the discovery and that he took the matter seriously.
Oh, I take classified documents and classified materials seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified, and the lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of the document. So we're going to see all this unfold. I'm confident.
At least 7 people have been killed in Alabama and Georgia after a massive storm system wiping out severe winds and spawning tornadoes hit some southern states in the United States. Authorities said strong winds and heavy rain damaged homes and left tens of thousands of customers without power in parts of Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said she was sad to learn that 6 people were killed in the state due to the storms. According to Selma Mayor James Perkins, a tornado touched down in Dallas County as well, ripping roofs off buildings and causing significant damage. With anti-government protests escalating across Peru, authorities have closed the international airport in the southern city of Cusco, a busy getaway to the mountaintop Incan citadel of Machu Picchu. Weeks of protests have left dozens dead across Peru, and several airports have been targets of the demonstration. Peru's transport ministry said that safety consideration led to the preemptive closure of the Alejandro Velasco Astete International Airport in Cusco, as clashes in Cusco's an arrival point for people visiting the country's tourism crown jewel of Machu Picchu broke out on Wednesday, with protesters attempting to enter the airport, while others touched a bus station, attacked shops, and blocked train back tracks with large rocks. And in business news, Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves has fallen to $4.3 billion, its lowest level since February 2014. The country's central bank announced this after paying off some of Pakistan's external debt payments. The State Bank of Pakistan revealed the figure, adding that commercial banks have $5.8 billion, totaling nearly $10.1 billion. Pakistan is hoping to end the deadlock as the International Monetary Fund is expected to release a $1.1 billion loan, which is part of the $7 billion loan program the country entered in 2019. Yesterday's announcement comes after the back of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's visit to the United Arab Emirates, where it was disclosed that the Gulf state pledged to roll over $2 billion of existing loans while providing an additional loan of $1 billion. And to the world of sport, Benjamin Mendy has been found not guilty of 7 of the 9 charges against him. The Manchester City defender has been cleared of 6 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault after a trial which began in August 2022. However, after 14 days of deliberations at Chester Crown Court, the jury has been unable to reach verdicts on 2 other charges against Mendy, 1 count of rape involving a woman aged 24 in October 2020 and 1 count of attempted rape involving a woman aged 29 in October of 2018. The Crown Prosecution Service said it will pursue a retrial against Mendy over the 2 charges, rape and attempted rape, which the jury could not decide on. Mendy's co-accused, Luis Sahar Maturi, has been found not guilty of 3 charges, but he faces a possible retrial on 6 charges. Mendy, who was suspended by Manchester City when he was arrested in August 2021, held his head in his hand as the verdict were read out. And to the world of tennis, Novak Djokovic received an adoring welcome to his first public return to the Australian Open for a practice match with home favorite Nick Kyrgios. The 35-year-old Serb was deported before last year's tournament after a row about his COVID-19 vaccination status that divided public opinion. Speaking after walking onto Rod Laver Arena to a rapturous reception, Djokovic said he felt a bit emotional.
Thank you so much. I feel a bit emotional right now, to be honest. I was really looking forward to come back to this court. So thank you all guys for coming out tonight for a great cause. I'm sure that we're going to have lots of fun, some great tennis. We have some of the wheelchair tennis champions as well with us on the court, so let's have a great evening.
Got to ask, couldn't agree more. Our special guest coming up later tonight. There's been a bit of discussion about your hamstring. I've noticed a bit of tape on it. How are we feeling?
Yeah, feeling good, feeling good. This is the match that I care about only right now, Nick. Nick is in my thoughts, he's in my prayers.
Is he in your head? Because he does like to tell everyone he's got a 2-1 advantage against you.
2-all after tonight.
Good on you, Novak. We'll let you go.
We'll look forward to a very beautiful match in Australia. Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke meets President Buhari at Presidential Villa. Ukraine's military denies reports of Russian seizure of Soledar. And Japanese prosecutors indict man suspected of killing former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. Thank you for viewing. On behalf of the entire transmission team, I am Tunde Ido. Good evening.